Okay, so yesterday we finished the book, Juan Daniel and the Football Frog, right? So who can remind me or remind us what technology is?
It's almost anything made by man, and I agree with Thomas that it is also to solve a problem. Like, we had stuff as simple as a staple, a paper clip, a piece of paper.
Very good, very good. And what about engineers? What about any engineer? What's an engineer?
They use their knowledge of math and science to build something.
Okay, good. And Nathan?
They use technology to design better technology.
So sometimes they can use technology and improve the technology, right, by making better technology. Okay, and what specifically were the engineers we were reading about in the story? What kind of, or what types of engineers were those? Savannah? Bioengineers, and they actually use the knowledge of math and science and their inspiration in nature, right, to help them solve problems. Okay, what inspired Juan Daniel? So he has a little problem with his frog. What inspires him to make the model membrane?
Miss Peters tries to tell him what you're gonna try, like, to need for it. Like, you're gonna need water to keep it moist, and like cloth so it's not too much to flood it.
Exactly. So she helps him understand how to do it. And what in nature inspired him to think about what Noor?
When he went to the rainforest and he saw the leaf with the water draining off of it, and it like inspired him to make something.
Very good. So today, and from this point on, you are now officially bioengineers. And we're actually going to work on the first part of the process. Does anybody remember the first step in the process, the engineering design process? Adam?
Ask.
So today we're going to start working with the ask step of the process, okay? And so today I want you to think like an engineer, and we're going to do this by playing a little match game. Okay, so for today, for the pieces that we put down, we're going to find out which ones go together, but not just go together. We actually want to match different technologies with natural things that have similar functions. So you're going to find pairs that match. One is a technology that was designed by who? By an engineer. One's a technology designed by probably a bioengineer. And the other part, the matching piece, is the thing found in nature, the natural thing that inspired or showed us a function in which engineers kind of got an idea from to create something. So we're looking for a technology and match it with something natural that has the same function. Do you know what I mean when I said the same function? Because that can be a tricky word. Who thinks you can tell me what it means to have the same function?
Something that does the same thing.
Does the same thing, right? So it kind of does the same thing or a similar thing. So how do they find things and say, gee, I think we could create something that's similar to that what we found in nature? Nathan?
They could look at it and study how it works, and then they could see what other materials act the same.
He's already a bioengineer. Today, as we do this, okay, guys, I want you to think about this essential question or this really big idea. Because when we're done playing the game, we're going to come back and try to answer this question. And the question actually is right here. That's why I didn't want you to see it, but I'll put it right here. Here's our guiding question. This is going to guide our thinking today as we play the game. How do bioengineers use natural objects to inspire human-made technologies? Okay, so we're going to think like a bioengineer and say, gee, what do they think about in nature, and how did that help me design what we need to design? Okay, so let's just do a little example of how this game is played. Okay, ready? So say your player, it's going to be 3 players. 3 or 4 players to a team, to a game, and you find a match. But I'm not going to tell you what everything is, because if I tell you, then you'll already know, right? I want you to kind of figure it out. And I want you to have a conversation about, do we think that really is a good match, and why? So for example, let's just play one little round here, okay? So, Jaden, pick 2 and let's see what they are.
1 and 5.
Okay. Jaden said 1 and 5. Now remember, we want one to be a what? Technology, and the other one to be Something natural that inspired that, or that has the same function. So Jaden said 1. Oh. Airplane wing, flying through the air. So is this natural or technology? Technology. And then you said what, Jaden? 5. So Jaden said 5. An armor. It gives this body protection. Is this natural or technology? Technology. So do we have 2 matches? Nope, we have 2 technologies. I'm going to flip them back over. Somebody else is going to have to do it. Let's see. Kendra.
2 and 3.
Okay, Kendra said 2. And behind 2, ooh, duck feet. Natural or technology? Natural. And 3?
Whoa.
Flippers. Swimming through the water easily. Is this technology? Okay, and this is natural? Do they have the same function?
Yeah.
What does that mean? What do they do then? What is the function that they do? Nick?
A duck's feet are webbed, so it makes them easier to swim, and flippers are webbed, so
Who would use flippers?
swimmers.
Okay, swimmers, but somebody else too. Divers, maybe people that want to investigate the ocean, marine biologists, maybe somebody like that. Okay, we have a match. When we have a match, this is how it works. Pay attention. You each have this sheet that will be stapled into your science notebook. When you have a match, you find the natural object, and on the side of it, you write the technology that matched the natural object. And then in this last one, the function. What do they both do? Okay? Everybody in the team records it on their paper. Clear? Okay. So if we found the duck's feet, it would be the natural object. And then we found flippers, we would put flippers here, and we would put swimming through the water easily as its function. Make sense? Okay, let's see what else we have here.
I picked this one.
She knows.
It's one of those. And this one.
So what is
I know
that?
what this one is.
What is that? A hand pollinator? What does that do?
Moving pollen from one plant to another. I've never seen one of those. Me
Interesting.
neither. I've never seen waxy leaves either. Me and you know what Jordan is. I love the rest of the guys.
So whose turn?
Nathan. Of course. Seen that one? The parachute? Yeah.
Do they serve the same
Because
function?
flying squirrels, they don't fly, they actually glide. They jump off a tree and then they glide.
How do you know that?
And their skin because allows them to glide slower through the air.
What in the skin makes it glide slower? That's a really good idea. What makes it glide slower?
The thicker skin.
Oh yeah? Interesting. So you have a match.
Yay.
So it's the match with the flying squirrel skin is a parachute.
What's the technology parachute?
Good job, Nathan.
Guys, find a match. Yeah. What's your match?
Teeth and knife, raincoat and waxy leaves, carrot's beak and nutcracker, and flight squirrel skin and parachute.
Okay, so maybe you could put them to the side so you can see the other ones, so you don't get a little confused. Maybe.
Yeah.
I'll take some. Nice job. Do they all have a similar function?
Yeah.
I thought waxy leaves
Would be like
would
the
waxy,
raincoat.
so the rain slips off and it repels
You know what we were
it like
thinking about in another group? Remember the leaves in the story? What did the leaf do?
The water gets off.
Right off it, right? So what an inspiration that is, right?
And the last match.
It's a bird. It's Velcro. Yeah, wait. A bird.
Do you guys know what a burr is?
Yeah.
Yeah, like when you walk through a meadow or through the woods and you get those little brown things that stick to your clothes.
I hate
And then you have to go home and you have to really pull them off. Well, they're kind of like Velcro because they stick like that.
those. My mom picked one of those up by an accident. And it stuck, a whole bunch of them stuck into our hand. What are we doing with that? We're done.
Good job.
We won! Let's play again! We won!
So did every team find the matches? Or you think you found the matches, right? Okay, well, let's talk about them before we move on to our guiding question, which we kind of can figure out. But what's the first match on your list? Nicole?
You said the waxy leaves and the raincoat.
What function did they both serve?
They repel water.
Okay, did everybody find that sheet? Well, that's the first one they found. They said we found that the waxy leaves and the raincoat both repelled water. Do you all agree with that thinking? Yeah, and I actually went around to a few groups and they weren't quite sure if that was the function of the waxy leaves, but then we talked about the story in Juan Daniel. Remember when he actually saw the waxy leaf? What was coming off the waxy leaf that actually inspired him a little bit? Kiana?
Water.
Water was dripping off it, so it was repelling off that. The same thing with a raincoat, right? Doesn't a raincoat keep you dry so it kind of repels off it? Okay, let's go down the list. The front way. So is it clear for you to see that natural objects inspire bioengineers or engineers to create things that can do similar functions? Would you agree with that? After what you've just experienced, how do you think bioengineers use natural objects to inspire human-made technologies? What did your group come up with, Julia?
They take their natural trait from the objects and put it into their design. After testing it, they try to improve it.
So Julia said they take their natural traits, and then I asked them to clear that up for me. What did they mean about natural traits? And Nick, what did your group say?
Sort of like a character attribute.
The attributes of it or the characteristics of it? So, like, what would inspire this? Did the engineer have to consider the shape of the duck's feet? So you'd have to consider the shape, right? And maybe with the waxy leaves, would you have to consider the kind of the texture or the feel of the material to inspire? So they think about all those things, like they said, the traits or the attributes of natural things to help them create a technology that serves similar functions. Make sense? Do you now know more about engineers? Alexis?
Me and my group kind of had a disagreement.
Okay, so do you want to kind of work it out?
Well, me and Doa thought that you get something natural and then you make something that it's similar to it, a function, but he thought...
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to say.
But what do you think?
I was saying like that. I was saying.
Okay, it's okay to have a different thought because that's how we learn from one another, and actually teams think differently, and that's why engineers work in teams, because they all have different ideas, and when we come together, some of those pieces of ideas can come up with one really good product. So, what was your thinking, Jaden? Was it a little bit different than that?
I was thinking that you need to the question you need to have the what you see from and then you have to use you have to figure out what you're gonna use to make what you see to do that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So it's a blend of that. Jaden, you're right. Bioengineers are going to look at things in nature like this, and they're going to say, what do we see? How do we see that that wing is working? They really ask a lot of questions, right? They ask a lot of questions about how that wing is working, and then they're thinking to themselves, we want to make something, we want to invent something that can fly like this. What do we have to do to create something that can do that? They have to think of the materials they need, how that functions, and how it's going to help them when they're designing something. So you're both right. Great job. Nice job. All right, engineers, another round of applause. You have accomplished the first part of the ask. Lesson 2 is where they play the match game, and that's always fun because it's a game. But the big idea there is, how are engineers or bioengineers inspired by nature to create technologies? And I think they get a clear sense of that. There are some when they're matching, I could, go around and tell they were like, well, I'm not quite sure if this is really this, but that leads to good conversations about, well, what do you think? And students having conversations like that. The one thing I did a little bit differently this time that I haven't done in the past is we always have an essential question, and that question, I always pose the question first, and we think about that as we're doing whatever activity. But with that lesson, a couple of teams were done sooner than other teams. And so it was actually a student that said, I said, where are you going? He was getting paper. And I said, why? He said, we're going to try to answer the question. I said, perfect. Perfect. So I, started, I said, hey, anybody's done, go get a piece of paper. And as a team, try to see if you can come up with an answer to the question, which lent itself to answering the question when we're done with the activity. I think overall it's a very good lesson. It's easy. There's like very little preparing to do to that. It's, you know, cutting them up and you have your game.